Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today we're talking Zangief, specifically Modern Control Zangief. Modern Control Zangief has probably been one of the things I've been asked about the most since Street Fighter 6 has come out. I am known for playing big characters and grapplers, and Zangief is both a big character and a grappler. And people have asked, what about Modern Zangief? What about Modern Zangief? What about Modern Zangief? And honestly, I'm personally, not to disparage people who use Modern, but I'm personally not a fan of Modern just because, I've been doing the Street Fighter thing for over 30 years. I like the classic way of playing, right? I don't want to relearn what I've been playing for over 30 years. That said, though, since so many people asked, I figured this video, I'm going to take an analytical look at Modern Zangief, the strengths and weaknesses of what Modern Zangief brings to the table, and then answer the question, is he worth playing in Modern over just the regular classic style? So that said, let's get right into it. So out of the gate, what's the big deal with Modern Zangief? Well, it's the one-button pile driver, right? So you don't need to do any motions, like you just tap the button, you're good to go, right? So if you can't do a pile driver, this is admittedly a pretty sweet deal. Now, a couple things to note before we even get any further here. One, Modern Controls does allow you to do the regular motions. So here I am, I'm going to do the regular motions here for light, medium, and heavy pile drivers. And sure as sugar, I can do them just the same as I always did 360 motion, right? So you're still allowed to do it the classic way with Modern Controls, but the one-button pile driver is exclusive to Modern. Now here's where there's a little bit of a raw deal. One, the one-button pile driver is only the heavy pile driver. So the heavy pile driver, while damaging, doesn't exactly have, say, the range of the light pile driver, right? So if you want the light pile driver, your only recourse is to do it manually, which sort of defeats the purpose of Modern Controls, right? If you gotta do the manual input. Also, now let's look at the damage values here. So the one-button pile driver, due to it being modern, there's a little bit of a tax, a little bit of a penalty, if you will. So you can see here, but it says the damage scaling, it says 80%. It actually scales out of the gate. So it does 2640 damage. This is the heavy version once again. If I were to do the 360 motion normally, it'll do 3300 damage because it does 100% of its damage. But if I do the simple input shortcut, you'll still get it, but you'll do reduced damage here. So it's about 800 less damage overall. So, that's not insignificant. Now, Modern does come with the auto button here, which is a bit of a modifier changer. So yes, your range is admittedly not great with the heavy only as your option, but if you hit the modifier and hit it, then you'll get the EX version, which gives you quite a bit more range. Not quite as much as the light, it's roughly about as much as the medium, but still, it will give you a dramatic range increase. So that one weakness is curtailed. And once again, single button press, right? You just hold the auto button as your modifier, and then just one button press, no need for 360, no nothing. You can just do it right away. But this also is scaled damage. So it says here 2720. Now for reference here, the medium version, when it's not scaled, does 2640. So it does just a little bit more than the medium version would normally. And of course, naturally, if you do the raw version here, it's actually 3400. So it does fall pretty short in comparison to the regular version. So you lose damage, but you gain easy use. Because once again, if you can't do 360s, this is all moot, because it lets you do 360s, right? But even a regular 360 here, like doing it fairly quick here, 1, 2 frames, 4 frames, 5 frames, 7 frames. So it takes me about 7 or 8 frames, roughly, to do it in regular timing. And I'm pretty quick at this, right? I've been doing this for some years, right? So still 7 to 8 frames versus 1 frame. So it is a lot faster, admittedly. Like theoretically with a single button press, it'll let you do things like whiff punish buttons, right? Technically that is something you can do manually, but this is much more realistic with one button press, where you don't have to worry about that manual timing, right? So that is another strength. So all in all, it's faster, it has better whiff punish potential, but you do lose out quite a bit of damage. And you also lose out on the light pile driver, which is probably the single most useful pile driver. Yes, you can still do it manually, But if you're doing it manually, why are you playing Modern, right? So there's that. So there's certainly pros and there's certainly cons. Now let's talk other aspects of Zangief in Modern. I know a lot of it's about the Piledriver, but there's a lot more to talk about. Now, another aspect of the character is just some basic combo stuff. So if we use our special button, for example, specifically down and special button gives us our lariat. So just using the light button, which does sort of like a little bit of an auto combo for us, right? It goes for light kick into light punch. And then we hit our special button. That's generally the combo you want to go for, right? But the problem is it scales because you're using the easy button. Now, for a lariat, you just hit 2 buttons instead of 1 button. You get the regular lariat. So if you go light, special button lariat, it does 1288 damage. But if you just go light, regular lariat, it does 1480. So if you're pressing 1 button, you can press 2 buttons at the same time, I guess. But it sort of just makes that special a little bit redundant, all things told. Because once again, this is something you can do playing Classic Zangief just the same, right? And much the same here, if you're going for the EX and you want the easy version, it just makes it worse, basically. Like, it'll give you the advanced scaling, whereas the regular version would not. Also, the auto combos, so holding your auto button here to shift things around, they're not great. Legitimately, I don't think they're great. Some of these here, like just smashing light, right? This is not safe on block. Like, it just goes right into the special right away, which will probably get you blown up really bad. So just going for like manuals, like light, and then hitting a special is better than using your like auto combo for lights. Much the same here, mediums, they just go right into lariat, which is death on block. So that's not great. And much the same, the heavy just goes right into lariat. So all the auto combo functions for Zangief compared to some of the other characters I've seen that give like real hit confirms, like you can do 2 hits and then stop versus going right into the unsafe special. I'm not really a big fan of that, to be honest with you. Some other things I'm not the biggest fan of, especially for combos. Like, he does have air Piledriver, right? Like, he can do his air grab. That's fine. But what he can't do is do instant air grab. Like, if I'm just hitting up and then plinking into the special button, he will stay grounded and do the Piledriver instead. You have to wait a split second and then do it. Conversely, if you are playing classic controls, you know, if you do the Piledriver motion and air Piledriver's kick, if you just go Piledriver kick, it will immediately frame 1, like pixel off the ground, go into the grab, which is great for specific combos. Like, say if for whatever reason we get our wall bounce on here, it just makes the instant timing makes it very easy, right? I know on frame 1 this is coming out, and it's just something you can't do with the modern version of the character because he needs to clear the jump first before he can do it. Otherwise, he's just going to get the Piledriver on the ground, right? And when it comes to things like combos and utility, this is where I feel Modern really loses out. Do we have some of the really cool tools like, say, Headbutt? We sure do. Do we have the Knee Hammer? Sure do. And like, say, like the old classic whiff Knee Hammer into Piledriver is definitely a thing. So if you're looking to get really sassy with Knee Hammer into that 1-button level 3 super, that's great. And of course, just like we mentioned before, it will scale, but being frame 1, that helps. That helps a lot. But you lose a lot of buttons. Specifically, as far as I can tell, you can no longer do your medium kicks like stand medium kick, crouch medium kick. These are some of his best pokes, and they're just gone out of the arsenal. Like, you can still do other big buttons, you know, you still have like heavy punch, all that kind of stuff. You still have your chops and some of the other associated things. You can still sweep, right? But these are important buttons, like just control neutral, right? And they're gone. Stand heavy kick as well is just gone. And this move is strong for advanced combos and is also plus on block. And it's just gone. You cannot do these, as far as I can tell, with modern controls. This is the case for many characters, that they just simply have certain normals that cannot be done. And for Zangief, they're, I would say, some pretty core moves, very important moves. Other command normals as well, like the drop kick, which goes over lows and gives a pretty sweet corner combo if you hit with a punish counter, right? Can't do it. Just doesn't exist to be done. You can sweep, you can do crouch heavy punch, you can headbutt, regular heavy punch, all that kind of stuff. But as far as that goes, down forward heavy kick doesn't exist in modern controls. So you're losing a lot of important tools. So that all said, is modern control Zangief worthy of the hype that he's been given? Once again, if you can't do 360s, it's a moot argument because he lets you do 360s with one button press. So that's great. And of course, naturally, the 720. This is probably the cornerstone of modern Zangief. Yes, the damage will be scaled, but it's still a lot of damage. Still a lot of damage, right? And realistically, other than I'd say 5 or less people worldwide, you cannot consistently do a 720 while standing. You can buffer it into something like a knee hammer or a dash or whatever, or do it off, you know, like a parry or something like that. But just by itself raw, just like a little jitter, realistically, only a handful of people in the world can do that with consistency. Like, hey, here, watch me do it right now. Hey, I did it. Wow, perfect, right? No, that took me 4 tries, and I edited out my failures, right? And in a real match, no. Like, maybe I could do it if I got lucky, but realistically, in a real match, I'm gonna buffer it in a knee hammer, or I'm gonna dash, or I'm gonna empty jump, or I'm gonna do something to hide the input. Just doing it raw without jumping is not something I, who have been doing this for 30 some years, can realistically do in a match. So yes, modern controls, just being able to walk and go bleh and get your 720, that is legitimately fantastic. And that is, it offers him a level of power he normally doesn't get, right? But that said, easy 360 is good, easy 720 is amazing, but there is the damage implications. A lot of the benefits of modern controls I don't think benefit him as well, because I think his auto combo setups are weak. I do not think they're on par with the other characters. And a simple fact of the matter of he just loses some of his good tools. Like some characters, some of the buttons they lose are not that big of a deal. For Zangief, losing a lot of his primary pokes and counter pokes specifically, considering he's a character that's gonna, you know, struggle to work his way in, right? Those pokes are important. Like realistically, that's going to be where a lot of your damage is going to be getting, right? Because, you know, the big 360, it's only going to happen every now and then. So, all in all, I think modern control Zangief, if you can already do 360s, I don't think he's worth your time. Now, that said, if you cannot do 360s, by all means, go for him. Because then he absolutely is worth your time. But this is, if it's already something you can do, yes, you'll get little pile drivers a bit faster. Yes, you'll have a 720 on demand, which is admittedly ridiculous. But the everything else just isn't worth it to me. So that is my personal opinion, since so many people have asked. The longtime guy who plays grapplers and big characters, that's where I'm at right now. Worth it if you can't do 360s otherwise. But if you can, I think you should just play regular Zangief. So that's where I'm at. And that said, I would like to know where you guys are at. Please post in the comments below. But otherwise, that is the video for today. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Street Fighter.